Hello, Tommy.
Hi, and hi everybody. Welcome to Queers and Soaps.
Welcome
I'm
to our
Tommy.
show.
That's Aaron. And tonight we're doing our Gone Too Soon segment for the 90s Aaron Spelling series Savannah. And we're talking about episodes 5 and 6. Because this, not because, this Gone Too Soon actually had 2 seasons, but it was more like a season and a half. But roll the credits and we'll get right into it.
I'm dressed up real fancy tonight.
Did you? I'm actually wearing my One Tree Hill shirt.
Oh, today.
Um, yeah, I don't know what happened before the credits. I kind of had a brain fart.
Welcome to my world today. So, episode 5.
Yes. So a lot happened. So I guess
Oh,
in true soap opera fashion, we picked up right where we left off. Peyton's in the
mhm.
jail cell with her mother, having just found out that she's Edward Burton's daughter.
And girl is pissed.
I love it when she's pissed.
Like, you could see the fire in her eyes. Like, she's like, I'm going to get this man. He will
Mhm.
ruin the day he messed with Peyton. I don't know her
Well,
last name.
according to her mother, the deal was that he would leave something to Peyton and the mother in his will, um, if they didn't expose that he fathered her.
Yep.
But Peyton's not one to just sit back and accept that because she wants money
No,
now.
she is money hungry.
So she's like, all right, I'm gonna get him to admit that he's my father. So she's like packing up some of her things at the mansion, and she keeps saying things like, I never knew my daddy. He left when I was so young. She's like, I wish I'd had a father. Like she's trying to bait him, and he's just like unfazed, doesn't even
Which
blink.
even goes as far to say she wishes she had a father like him. It's like, really, girl? Okay.
um, she she asked if in her, I forgot how she worded it, but she basically asked if she could stay in the house even though her mother was in jail. And he takes it as she wants her job position. She's like, you want me to be your maid? She's like, no, I mean like just live here. And he said that would be unseemly.
What a southern thing to say.
He's
Like
like a man
that.
of my age. How would that look?
It's funny. I've been told something similar before.
Really?
Yeah. I used to house sit for someone and I would like spend a week at her house and just pretty much feed her cats and take care of all that, bringing her mail. But I was like, "Oh, do you care if my a friend comes over?" And she was just like, and it was a guy friend. Oh, I mean, what would my neighbors think? Probably shouldn't. I was like, you don't really have neighbors, but okay. I didn't house sit for her anymore after that. She didn't ask me to. It's like we just want to use the pool. So
So that pisses Peyton off.
pissed me off too. No.
He-
So I felt her rage.
so then she goes to Reese's house crying. I don't know if she was really crying or if it was all for show.
I'm confused. They have been best friends forever.
Mm-hmm.
You would not know Peyton thinks of her as a best friend whatsoever.
The way she treats her
The
behind her
way
back.
she treats her, yes. I was like, dang, girl, like that's how you treat your best friend?
I laughed when she came to the door crying and she was like, can I cry on your shoulder? It always makes me feel so much better. And she literally like threw herself on her shoulder.
And Reese is just, oh yes, baby, come on, just cry, just cry.
So Peyton kind of comes up with the plan that she's gonna get Reese taken out of the will, and then that way maybe she'll inherit more. She'll get more from Reese's part that she's not getting.
Which is Peyton is her own worst enemy. Her plans normally backfire.
So she kind of embellishes on to Reese about like what her father's been saying about her, but how she's like irresponsible, has never had a job, blah blah blah. So that kind of infuriates Reese, and she's like, I read in a psychology book that it's good, or I saw on TV a psychologist say that it would be good to write down how you're feeling on a piece of paper. And she's like, well, what good is that? She's like, just to get it out. So she writes down all these mean things about her father, but because it's Reese, she also wrote a nice letter that she plans to mail to her father.
Okay. I had some well, I guess let's finish telling the story of what happens with the letter before I add my comments.
So Reese crumples up the bad letter and throws it in the fireplace. Doesn't light it, just throws it in the fireplace. And goes to mail the nice letter. And they're all about to go out. I don't remember what they were going to do. But she's like, oh, I forgot my pocketbook. And she runs and grabs the crumpled up mean letter and puts it in her purse. So then the next day, she's at the house packing up more stuff. And she goes and gets the mail. And there's the letter. And she steams it open. Takes the nice letter out. Irons the crumpled up.
I loved when the housekeeper came in and was like, "You iron your towels?" Yes, I like them a certain way. I was. It was just the
So
whole
the
little
mean letter
montage.
looks brand new, puts it in the envelope, reseals it, puts it on Edward's desk.
Edward finds it, gets really mad at Reese. Okay, here are my comments about this letter. The first mean letter was written on like just this color paper. No, like you can tell it's just random paper that she wrinkles up, throws away. The nice letter is like on this nice fancy card stock with designs around the side. And her response is, I guess I mailed the wrong letter. I had issue there because I was like, there's no way you just randomly think you mailed the wrong letter.
I didn't take much issue with that as much as I took with she didn't notice that the crumpled up paper wasn't in the fireplace and she didn't burn it. I
Okay.
had more of an issue with that. So she tries to call her father to kind of make up with him, but because he has just read the letter, he hangs up on her. But she doesn't know why.
Man, that act, he is so good at playing evil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I ever saw him
Is it
play
bad
like
that I kind of find him attractive?
no, it's our problematic ways because sometimes I feel I know what you mean.
Well, in the 90s, I would have been like, oh, he's so old. And now I'm just like, I'm into
You're like, hey, daddy, what you doing?
He doesn't look so old anymore.
Want to write me into your wheel?
So Reese gets a job on the riverboat.
Mhm.
It's her first job ever. And if Tom, the con artist, gets into it with his partner, Veronica, which watching it, I was like, oh, I think I called her Victoria in another episode.
Veronica Victoria. Tomato.
He wants to start a gambling ring of some sorts.
A casino. Because that's what Richard was. Because in the South, that's one thing you have. Like, okay, I'm going to tell a short little funny story. So when I lived in South Arkansas, where I lived was really close to Louisiana, Shreveport. You can gamble in Shreveport.
Mm-hmm.
But the only reason they have casinos is because it's technically they're on the water. So one weekend, I tell my coworkers like, "Oh, I'm going to the casino." Da da da. And I come back, they're like, "Oh, how was the boats?" I'm like, "I didn't go on any boats." And it's because they consider the casinos on like boats because it's on water.
Oh,
Because legally, that's what you have to do.
oh.
Or there,
I don't really know the rules, but it's illegal to gamble in New York. Um, but not in Jersey. And I always see commercials about downloading these gambling apps, and I'm like, they won't allow it in New York. Like, it'll be blocked. Like,
so so, but I bet that's why he was having to go through all the trouble of getting the because if he was on the river, he could
mhm.
have a gambling license.
Hmm, look at you knowing stuff.
Only because I was stupid at one time. Those
um,
rules may have changed, though. Who knows? But that's not what this podcast is about.
I'm going with your story. It makes sense.
So,
um, and he wants to invest what is supposed to be Veronica's part of the riverboat into the casino.
and
She's
she's like,
pissed.
she's like, hell no, you aren't, Tom.
So she's like, all right, I'm gonna do my own thing, and she starts to kind of flirt with Edward. Edward.
It's like I don't understand what her first thought is. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna do Richard or Edward.
So I like how they kind of foreshadowed and set up the whole thing. So she brought him cigars,
Hmm.
and she made a comment like, "Oh, she's like, I usually don't. I'm not into men who smoke or whatever." And he's like, "Suddenly, I feel like giving up smoking." And then so they start hanging out a little bit. They end up sleeping together.
In the hospital like bed, that could not have been comfortable.
Oh no, we're not there
Oh,
yet.
spoiler alert.
No, they ended up sleeping
Oh, one
together.
person.
And what happens with Peyton? She comes to pack up the rest of her stuff. Oh, she comes to pack up the rest of her stuff, and he's all like, in his afterglow, calls his lawyer, decides to take Reese out of the will, and he's like, and while you're at it, take out Peyton and her mom too.
I was like, "Oh, you about to be killed."
And Peyton heard that.
I was like, "Peyton's about to no."
So then he's like, draw up the paperwork, I'll sign it tomorrow. And then he's like, I'm going golfing. And he goes to get his golf clubs out of the garage. And he's smoking one of his cigars. And he puts the cigar on the edge of like a work bench or whatever. And it falls
I
into a
don't know
trash
why.
can. And whatever's in the trash can catches on fire. Um, and then I don't know what happened. Something happened where he got hit in the head. A beam fell or something
He was
fell.
trying to put it out,
Oh,
and
he
as
was
he
trying
was
to put
trying
it
to put it
out.
out, he's making it worse. So he
Yeah.
fell and hit his head. And
Yeah.
Peyton comes into the garage, and I like how she's just like,
Because she's probably like, if he dies, then they never take me out of the will, and I
"Yeah,
get the
can't
money.
sign that. Can't sign that paperwork."
Hmm.
I like how she literally lets literally lingers on her for far too long. Where I'm just like, "Oh yeah, she gonna let him die," and
Did
then she hears
she decide to save him on her own, or did she hear Veronica?
she heard Veronica, and that's
Ah,
when she ran. She closed the door. She ran outside, and that's when she starts to help him
hmm
or help Veronica. I really thought it was going to go to kind of like a she was going to rescue him, and then maybe she was going to try to use that. But in the hospital, they will not let Peyton anywhere near him.
hmm
And I'm like, why?
Well, okay, so I think episode 5 ended with the fire, like the
Oh,
fire
okay.
started,
Well,
and now we're in episode 6.
before we can move on to episode 6, Peyton had a quote that I just loved. It's when she's packing and moving, and Dean and Lane's helping her, and they're talking about Dean's body,
Hmm.
and Peyton's all, "I'd let him do wicked evil thoughts about his body. Somehow having wicked evil thoughts about his body." I just loved how she said it.
Was that when she was just like, So you're thinking about him like that, and or Lane said that, and she was like, "No, I've known him since I was a kid." She's like, "You are." Yeah, they were pushing Lane to like get with.
Hmm.
I can never remember his name.
Dean.
Dean. Dean. So she finally does. She finally goes out to dinner with him. They go
And
back to his place. They sleep together, and then his wife, who's been missing for months, shows up.
see, and I let this show get me. Like it tricked me because I was not expecting the wife to come back so soon. So I was kind of like, oh, I was expecting it to happen, of course, but not just like boom, sleep together next morning. Hey, honey, how's it going?
That
And
was
then
kind of annoying.
they threw us another one with he has a kid.
I think we knew that, or he's
Oh,
mentioned it.
I forgot.
Yeah, I think he's just kind of mentioned it in passing, but you forget about it because you're not seeing the kid. So
Yeah.
this was like the first time we saw him. Um, so episode 6 is they save Edward. He's in the hospital. He's unconscious. Um, Reese and him sort of make up when he comes to.
Hmm.
Like they tell each other they love each other. He wants her to move back into the house. She says no. Um, and then we had this random scene with this guy getting out of jail, and I was like, "Who is this?" I didn't remember who this was. I'm like, "Who's he going to be connected to?" And he comes to the riverboat, starts a fight with security and some guests, and we find out that he's Tom's brother,
Hmm.
Vincent. Um,
I need them to tell.
you need them to tell what?
I need a little bit more information about why Tom hates Edward so much.
Maybe it's
'Cause
like a Cliff Barnes situation.
maybe. Because it can't be the fact that like that's his dad or something, because then he wouldn't be pursuing Reese
Reese,
like
yeah.
he is.
No, I think maybe he bankrupt his father somehow.
Okay.
Because I think the riverboat used to be his father's.
Oh.
Because remember in the pilot there was that flashback of him carving Tommy on the wall.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of zone out during that story because I don't really care.
This episode wasn't as eventful as it has been. Like the wife coming back was kind of just a little bit of a snooze fest for me.
Those characters are kind of a snooze fest for me. Um, but what happened? Oh, so Tom starts to threaten Veronica. He shows up at the hospital because she's sleeping with Edward. And I liked how feisty she was. She's like, "You lay a hand on me." She's like, "And I will let everybody know what your real name is." So he kind of backs down. Um, she sleeps with Edward in the hospital room. Oh, my favorite scene was when they were, I guess, waiting for him to come to. He was still unconscious, and it was Veronica and Peyton, and they were like asking questions and then talking in their heads.
Oh, I know. I was like, "Ooh, we get old school soap." Like that reminded me so much when Days and them used to do it. Like Sammy did that all the time.
Peyton was like, "So what do you do for work?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm in finance." And then Veronica's like, "She's asking too many questions."
Yeah, that was fun. I did like that.
So now Peyton's on a mission to find out who this Veronica person is. And on one of her attempts to see Edward, she bumps into Veronica, knocks whatever lunch she brought and her bag down, and she steals Veronica's wallet, which I thought was very sloppy for a con artist.
I mean, maybe it's just because they've met their match with Peyton. Because I mean, that girl is mad and smart,
Mm-hmm.
dangerous combo.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know she's
I,
gonna. get what she wants.
In a roundabout way, they kind of found a solution to her sleeping with her previous boss. She just got a job on the riverboat. Because remember, I was like, how is she going to go to work now?
I like. Did they even finish that storyline?
No.
Okay, because I thought
She
it was
slept with
weird.
him to
Like,
get money out of the safe, and then the money wasn't there. So that's when she stole the Fabergé egg to get Bunny's handprints on it.
okay, I needed a little closure with her not having a job. That's just me being. I'm like, I need closure. You went from one job to like at least say I quit that job or something.
Yes, and now she's bartending, I
I
think,
thought it
pretty
was a
much it.
clever way to get them kind of more connected into one.
Hmm.
You know, because she's a bartender and Reese, is trying to be a waitress.
She seemed like she was doing pretty good.
Yeah, she
Um,
wasn't too bad.
Peyton meets Tom for the first, maybe not the first time, but they actually have a conversation.
Hmm.
That's when he gives her the job. Um, and I laughed when he was like, "Oh, you and Reese good friends." She was like, "More like a sister, really." And I was like, "Well, you're not wrong."
See, it's things like that. Now, if he ever comes back and said, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" I did tell you. It's like being sneaky.
So Peyton brings Veronica's wallet to a private investigator, who finds out that the real Veronica, I'm probably going to butcher the last name, Kozlowski,
Something.
is an 80-year-old woman who passed away 4 months ago.
I I loved how the just happy the private detective was. Like
Right.
he was just like, I love my job. So much fun.
Well, he was like, I love these computers. He's like, you don't have to do anything on foot anymore.
I know. I'm like, wait 20 years, you're gonna really love it. Because now she probably could have Googled half of that on her own.
Hmm. Save some money. Yeah, I thought Peyton was going to get into the hospital room, and say that she like helped save him, and he was going to be so grateful and keep her in the will.
Mhm.
The mom seems like she's still living in a fantasy world where she thinks like she and Edward are going to be together someday.
I know. Bless her heart.
um, so we see Dean reunite with his son. And then there's this random scene with the wife on the phone, and it seems like she's up to no good and has a boyfriend out of town.
I'm like, what? I mean, it's not like she can get money out of him. He's a cop.
I don't really remember
Uh,
what happens, but I think maybe she's trying to ditch her son. Like she's just trying to like drop him off and like go back to the boyfriend.
well, she threatened Lane, was like pretty much saying she'll kill her if she doesn't, you know,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
he'll be interested to see.
Um,
I like Lane, but I think it's because I like Robin Lively.
yeah.
There are moments where I'm just like, better be careful. She'll put a spell on you. She was a teen witch.
Trying to remember how the episode ended.
It ended with the threat,
Which threat?
girl, wife to Lane.
Oh, that was the last scene.
Yeah, because the credits came up over her face as she was all.
Okay. Um, I don't know. It was a slower episode. 6 was a slower episode, but I felt like there was still stuff going on, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, had we not binge watched it, I probably would have been like liked it and enjoyed it a little more.
Hmm.
But because we're binge watching it, and episode 5 was just so good, episode 6 was a letdown compared to 5.
Hmm. Oh, I did. There was a funny moment in episode 6. So Edward's now home, and Reese is like, "Oh, we're gonna get you a nurse in here," and he's like, "I don't need a nurse." And she was like, "Well," she's like, "the one that's here now leaves. You need somebody here 24/7." And he's like, "Veronica's gonna move in," and she's like, "Veronica?" She's like, "You hired Veronica as your nurse?" And he kind of just looks at her, and she's like, "Daddy," and he was like, "What did he say?" He's like, "Would you think you were immaculately conceived or whatever?" And she
And
was
she,
just like, "Yeah, I'd like to think that."
it's funny too that I've heard so many conversations like that living in. I don't know if it's the same where you're from, but I swear I think Southern kids, when it comes to their finding out their parents have sex, it's like, no, they couldn't have. My parents don't do things like that. Like they don't want that thought of like that even possible. Just to them is
Um, and in
But it was
episode
so
6, there
funny.
was also a random like dinner scene. Reese had Tom and his brother Vincent over with Lane for dinner,
That poor
and
plate.
they kind of had a little tussle in the kitchen because Vincent's like, "What are you doing? That's Edward Burton's daughter." So they're kind of laying little breadcrumbs for the story.
Hmm.
I felt like it was more with Peyton that she did. I feel like she's always doing something.
Oh,
She's always
maybe
making her next move to make like her master plan work.
I know she threatened Tom to expose him. So maybe that's how the episode ended. Um, her threatening to expose Tom unless,
Peyton did?
uh-huh, because he's like, "What do you want, money?" She's like, "No." She wants in
Oh
on
yes, that's how the episode ended. That's familiar.
she
Okay.
wants in on the she wants a
She
cut,
went in on the casino.
which
Right.
I don't blame her. Good money.
Yes, that's how it ended.
I think that'd be
Because
the
I'm like, I
best
could have
way to
sworn
get.
Peyton was the last scene.
I think that would be the best revenge, is to take something Richard couldn't do and make it happen. Like he doesn't seem like the guy that likes to be beat. So if
Hmm.
you were successful at something he did, he's gonna be just it's gonna kill him.
I'm interested because I don't remember to see when Peyton's paternity comes out, when everybody finds out.
I wonder how they find. I wonder who needs a kidney.
You think there's going to be a medical emergency?
That's typically what happens.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
don't really remember.
I think Peyton could just blackmail Edward. I don't think Edward wants that information out because if he's like, "Oh, no one's going to believe you," be like, "Well, then Reese and I'll just go get a paternity test." And as her best friend, she would do it.
You know when it'll probably come out in true soap opera fashion during her mother's murder trial.
Uh, Probably. Hmm.
That's probably what will happen.
Yeah, you're probably right. Gotta have a good trial reveal where someone stands up and points.
She did it for the love of Edward, because
I
he's
was
my
trying to
father.
protect my daughter.
Now I'm excited to find out.
Trying to protect my baby's daddy.
But all right, well, I don't really have anything else to say. I don't really remember
I don't,
much else.
I don't either. I mean, they were still both good episodes. Just five was the better one to me.
I would have still watched it on TV.
Oh, oh,
I would just
definitely.
be like, yeah, it wasn't such a great episode. I'll watch
Yeah.
it next week.
I mean, all shows, they all have those episodes.
Um, did in the videos that you watched, were there like WB ads in between?
A few, yeah.
I
I,
liked.
I love, I love the Savannah's on tonight or whatever it is.
I miss the WB announcer. Not just the frog, the guy that says like speaks during the promos. because he's so dramatic. He's like, watch the show that's already captivated millions in just 3 weeks.
I know. I want him to do that for mine.
And then at the end, mine showed a preview for the next episode, and then it did the credits, and it was like, watch Savannah Sundays as a 1 hour alternative to the 2 hour movie of the week. And
Oh,
I
I
was
heard.
like,
I was like, ooh, some shade.
oh.
Ooh, I felt it. I felt it from 1995. It's like, ooh, that burn lingered.
I was
I
like,
mean,
yeah.
that was a good I mean, that was a good marketing thing because yeah. I mean, that's really all you had Sunday nights.
There was limited channels, and not all of them had programming 7 days a week.
Hmm.
It was when they didn't. It was usually sports or news
So,
or some kind of syndicated
which
thing.
is why I don't understand why they moved Savannah to a different night. I think if they would have kept it on Sunday, it would have lasted longer.
They were probably just trying to expand the network.
Yeah, they were to me they were still too fresh. Like when they moved Buffy, because I remember them moving Buffy. I was like, ooh. I mean, I was a little kid, but I even remember like, ooh, because normally
So it
that's
didn't
when
scare me as much as it scared you. I'm like, okay, I'll just find out when it's on and I'll watch it.
I guess it's just I don't know. I just remember when they moved, it was like, and I was the same way with One Tree Hill. When they every time they moved One Tree Hill, I was like, this is the last season then, because it's like if it works, keep doing it. Just let it stay there for a little while longer. So I
All
think they
right.
should. I think they should reboot Savannah.
They don't need to reboot Savannah. At this point, they should just make a different show set in the South.
Oh well, we have Dynasty.
Yeah,
It's in
yeah.
Georgia.
Fallon missed the heat. Remember?
Alan's the painting. Hmm. So
But all right, guys. Thanks for joining us for our Gone Too Soon episode for Savannah. Check us out on all the socials at Queers and Soaps, and we will see you next week for another episode of Queers and Soaps. Till then, have a great night. Bye.
bye everyone.